Chapter 4 Furry Traps. It was a week and a half since Red showed up, and you were just starting to fool yourself into thinking they gave up. You were set up in your rented condo with new furniture, the place actually starting to feel like a new home. Shows you shouldn't let your guard down. It all started with a banging on the door, someone pounding it so hard you saw the frame shake.
"Human, open up this door immediately. This foolishness has lasted long enough."
Your shoulders sagged with relief when you heard it was Black. At least you didn't have to worry about anyone shortcutting into your condo. "Please go away," you shouted, already looking for headphones near your couch. You'd probably have to just ignore his shouting and pounding, hoping some music would block it out. What happened next made the search irrelevant. Ping! One door hinge flew off, thumping on the tile floor. Then the second. Then the doorknob tumbled down with a metallic clang. You watched dumbly as the whole door fell to the floor, showing Black in his armor. The black armor with razor-sharp spikes made to intimidate his enemies. "There goes my security deposit," you muttered, your brain probably in denial about how much danger you were in. Black stepped forward, door cracking under his boot. Your throat felt too dry as you opened up your mouth to speak. "What's up? By the way, this is breaking and entering."
"Oh, I'm planning to do much more than breaking and entering before the day's over,"
Black said, putting more cracks in the door as he continued walking. You stepped back for every step he took forward. Aren't you like part of the Royal Guard? I'm pretty sure someone of that position shouldn't be committing crimes like this," you said, pulling your collar. God, you hoped all that stuff you bought online worked.
"Don't lecture me, human. I'm dragging you back to the mansion, and you'll stay there until the machine is fixed,"
Black said, hands forming into fists. You were suddenly very aware of just how much bigger he was and how big those hands were. To top it off, you found yourself against a wall as he continued walking forward. "You're now, planning to kidnap me, which is a crime, too. So is slavery. I'm pretty sure that's what you're planning once you take me to your home against my will," you said, trying to swallow your fear. Please let this be working. Please don't let Black turn him into some serf or whatever his crazy Renaissance mind wants to do with him.
"Your feelings are irrelevant when it comes to finding my brother. Do I look like I give a shit about your concerns in this?"
Black said, slamming a fist into the wall next to your head. You were very conscious of how the plaster broke and cracked under his hit. "No, but you should be worried about the monkey." Black blinked for a second, for the first time appearing speechless as his forehead scrunched up.
"I should be worried about the monkey?"
"Yeah, that monkey," you said, pointing to a toy monkey on the kitchen counter. You were starting to become aware of how close Black was and how his breath smelled like lavender. Big, badass Black actually had lavender breath. Who knew? The skeleton pulled away thankfully and went over to the counter, picking up the said toy.
"And why should I be worried about this ugly thing?"
Black said with a mocking smile, tossing the furry figure up and down in the air with one hand. "Because it has a hidden camera which streamed everything you said live to the police," you said with your own smile. And boy, was it hard work setting it up, even for an engineering major. It was actually one of 3 hidden cameras that all start recording at the word command, "What's up?" Then, it sends an email to the police with a link so everything could be seen live. Black froze as the monkey was in the air, failing to catch it as it flopped to the ground. Oh, and it's also sending this live video feed to the royal family, too. Well, to the email they advertise on their website. I'm giving it a 50-50 chance of either the police storming in here or Ambassador Frisk themselves showing up at my doorstep, you said, taking a step back from Black. Now here came even the scarier part. How would Black react? Would he charge him and smash his poor nerdy body to pieces?
Saying doorstep may not be accurate. You have no door at this point.
Both of you whipped your heads to the entrance to see a well. You didn't actually know their gender, but they were definitely Ambassador Frisk, dressed in a blue sweater and jeans. Um, hi, you nearly squeaked. You were joking about the ambassador showing up. You really were. You figured the police for sure would be the first to arrive. How did they even get here so quickly? My mother already called the police asking for them to let us handle this for now, assuming things don't get further out of control, Frisk said, arching an eyebrow at Black. The skeleton was sweating like crazy, looking like he was about to overheat in his armor. Since he wasn't going to speak, you cleared your throat and responded. Not that I'm ungrateful for the save, but how the hell did you get here so quickly? You said, taking a couple of steps away from Black. Papyrus explained everything which happened recently, and while the royal family respected your decision to move on, we didn't totally trust the others to do the same. I decided to stay close by in case something unexpected happened, Frisk said, sparing Black a glare. The skeleton seemed to wilt under the gaze. You only met Frisk one other time when they showed up at the mansion 3 months ago. And just like now, being in their presence was intimidating. The person who led monsters to the surface, who successfully passed monster integration laws, and who met routinely with world leaders such as the president before they even reached 16. At the first meeting, they spoke to Tiffany first. Probably heard a lot more from the skeletons about her, but ended up spending more time with you to discuss the machine. Diplomacy may have been their strength, but they had a sharp mind and picked up on the various steps you were taking to help repair the machine. All the skeletons either loved them or you didn't want to say feared them, but it felt that way. Your Sans and Papyrus wouldn't even leave the guest house to meet them. You remembered how Black Skull sweated back then as he stuttered a greeting and was uncharacteristically quiet. You had a feeling Black had some sort of significant experience with the Frisk in his world to cause him to act this way. Now, first things first. As ambassador, I need to merit our punishment when one of our royal guards acts in such a dishonorable way. Black, consider yourself removed from the royal guard. All your privileges are as of now revoked, Frisk said, placing a hand out. Black closed his eyes, almost appearing to be in physical pain. Then, with a deep breath, he pulled off a badge from his armor, the Deltarune symbol shining under the light. Of course, Ambassador, Black said, voice softer as he handed the badge over. Furthermore, you are now on the Surface watch list, Frisk said, getting an outright wince from Black. The Surface watch list was a bit of a debatable law many anti-monster lawmakers insisted on. It was something really pushed to happen when Undyne publicly nearly skewered a human with a spear. Basically, any monster on the watch list who was caught assaulting a human would be sent to the underground for 5 years. Didn't matter the circumstances or who started the fight. The argument being, since monsters had magic, they had to show more restraint when it came to violence. While on a personal level you didn't approve of the law, your shoulders did sag with relief. You didn't have to worry about Black ever laying a finger on you now that he was on the watch list. Reader, it's my understanding you owe Black here a debt because he partly paid off your student loan, Frisk said, cocking their head to the side. Yeah, you said, not able to get another word out. You were still in slight shock in how this person was totally owning Black. You'd think the skeleton would at least bring up a little protest. Consider it erased. In fact, Black here will pay the rest of your loan. Won't you, Black? Frisk said, not really making it a question. I will make sure it is done, Ambassador, Black said, looking like he was almost hurtling into his armor. Well, now with that over with, Reader, there's a cafe on the first floor. Would you mind joining me for a coffee? Frisk asked, smiling again. You'd think they were just normal buddies hanging out with the way they smiled at you. Sure thing. I mean, yes, Ambassador, you said, realizing you weren't acting nearly formal enough with the person who was famous worldwide.
Oh, please. I told you when we first met. Call me Frisk. Let's go downstairs.
Frisk said, turning. You couldn't stop yourself from glancing at Black, who appeared to be just a husk of his former self, staring dully at the floor with all confidence thrown out the window.
You know, it's funny, Black.
Frisk said as they reached the doorway, sparing the skeleton a look over their shoulder.
You worship and love a very vile human who betrayed you and may have very well gotten your brother killed, but you treat the human who did nothing but help your family for 6 months as total dirt. What do you think that says of you as a person?
Frisk didn't wait for a reply, simply exiting the room. You followed quickly after because you weren't sure you even wanted to hear if Black had a response. The cafe downstairs was small, just 4 tables outside with umbrellas. A little stand where coffee and hot chocolate was made. There wasn't even a cappuccino machine. Calling it a cafe may have been an overstatement. Frisk ordered a coffee while you went with the hot chocolate, nerves not exactly solid and not wanting more caffeine to shake them further. Let me guess, you're also going to try to talk me into helping with the machine, you said with a sigh. You felt a bit stupid. You didn't realize the motive until you got your drink. Couldn't refuse hearing them out, not when they bought a hot chocolate for you. You both took the table farthest from the stand. No one else around, so no real fear of anyone hearing this discussion.
Well, I won't lie. I do have a sales pitch. Maybe first I can start by bringing up something which shouldn't normally be discussed. You know, of course, of the time loops I've been in.
Frisk said. You instantly tensed. As far as you knew, you were the only human who knew Frisk went through repeated time loops underground, reliving a whole week over and over again. Even Tiffany didn't know about it. The only reason you were allowed to know was because it was necessary to be aware of them when doing algorithm calculations with the machine. You still didn't know why it happened. Sans may have had theories, but he didn't share them. Maybe this was the true reason Frisk intimidated you. Who knew how old they truly were when you take into account the time loops? It explained the maturity to take on the ambassador job when they reached the surface. Yes, Sans made it clear, though, not to ask details. You said, still remembering how Sans used his scary look, the eyeless sockets staring at you, when he said not to even think of snooping into it.
Well, Sans isn't here, and quite frankly, even if he was, it's not his choice on how much I tell someone. Tell me, what do you think I did in those time loops?
Frisk asked before taking a sip of their coffee. Honestly, the first thing which came to my mind was the movie Groundhog Day. I thought maybe you were spending those endless days learning piano or how to ice skate, you said, blushing as Frisk nearly spit out their coffee. The person was snickering and trying to get themselves under control. Finally, after taking a deep breath, they spoke.
That is a nice thought, and I wished I had approached it in such a way.
As opposed to the way you took, which was...
I killed monsters.
Now, you nearly choked on your drink, shakily putting it down as you coughed to clear your throat. Your eyes refused to leave the person in front of you. You were suddenly certain you were learning a lot more about Frisk than most people. Maybe even learning more about them than Sans.
Not all monsters, mind you. In fact, not even most of them. But I was hurt by a lot of them. Killed, in fact. That was, by the way, something which could trigger another time loop. I wouldn't die. The week would just start over.
Frisk said, staring down at their drink. Just like Groundhog Day, you said, wanting to slap yourself for speaking. Frisk simply chuckled, though.
Yes, just like the silly movie. The truth was, some of them I just couldn't forgive for attacking me.
Hypocritical, since others I did forgive. I only wanted to help the ones I like reach the surface, Frisk said, finger moving along the brim of their mug. And I tried, and I tried and tried, and oh, how I tried to get those monsters I liked to the surface. The ones I was starting to see as family, who would be so happy to get to see the sun, Frisk said, smiling, then sighed as they popped their chin with a hand, giving you an eerie look. But I couldn't do it. Or at least, I couldn't do it the way I wanted. You see, the only way I could pull off getting anyone to the surface was if I didn't kill anyone. So I had to learn if not to forgive all of them, at least spare all of them so the ones who deserved it reached the surface. Frisk said, leaning back and finally stopping with the eerie look which was creeping you out. Your heart was racing slightly. This was significant, as in more than your brain could truly handle. You weren't scared per se, but you felt you had something important being shared with you. Something way too important for nobody special you to learn. Frisk, why are you... Tiffany has a family. You were back to being tense. It was like a wooden pole strapped to your spine to keep it straight. They contacted the royal family when they lost contact with her. They didn't know a lot about her situation beyond the fact that she lived with monsters. The father and her little brother are good people, really worried about her and wondering what's going on, Frisk said before taking a slurp of their coffee. The mother, on the other hand, is a total selfish bitch. I think Tiffany inherited her less stellar qualities from the lady, Frisk said, back to giving you an eerie look. I'm being manipulated here, aren't I? You are, but it doesn't actually change a couple of important facts. You can get the machine fixed quicker, and Tiffany's family will be in less pain because of it, Frisk said, pushing their empty mug to the side. Because even if I can't forgive Tiffany, it's not just about her when deciding whether or not I should help, you said, seeing what parallels Frisk was trying to draw. And damn it, how could you be angry with them when they shared something so private to try to convince you to come back? Still, though, do you have any clue what it was like for me living there? Sans and I don't talk as much as we used to. Papyrus didn't say much either, which I admit was unusual. I was a tool, you said, now pushing your own empty mug aside. I was an ignorant tool. I didn't realize it was all I was seen as, but it was pretty much what they saw me as, except for a couple of best friends I have there. I'm sure even if they were letting Tiffany's charm lead them, deep down they... 20 minutes. Frisk wisely kept quiet, cocking their head to the side. You took a deep breath before elaborating. I was kicked out of the house 20 minutes after everyone decided they didn't want me there. Not even a day's notice to try to find another place. It was like I was this human-sized wrench which just broke, needed to be taken outside and thrown into the trash, you said, eyes watering. Embarrassment filled you as you accidentally let a couple of tears escape, quickly wiping them from your sleeve. That's when you heard the sound of a boot shifting on the ground. Both you and Frisk turned to see Black only 15 feet away, this time staring at you, not Frisk, with an unreadable expression. Black, leave now, Frisk said in a voice so loud it could compete with Papyrus's vocal cords if he actually had any. For the first time, Black showed defiance, squaring his shoulders. I want to speak with Reader. You don't get to make demands, not after all the crap you pulled. Now leave here before you make me angry. Frisk hissed, getting up. The two had a staring contest for a minute before Black finally turned to leave, but not before giving you one last glance. You didn't respond, finding yourself looking away from him, wishing he didn't get a chance to see you at your moment of weakness. You didn't feel calm until you heard the footsteps finally disappear into the distance. Just to be clear, I'm not trying to mend the relationship between you and the remaining skeletons. In fact, from what I understand, there's a guest house on the property, so you don't even have to see any of them outside of working on the machine. Frisk said, sitting down.
Reader, whatever you require, however we need to make arrangements so you find this bearable, we'll do it. You believe them. You still didn't want to do it, though. But there were other aspects of the situation you couldn't get out of your head. How this would make it even easier to help your Sans and Papyrus. How you would be helping a family get their daughter back. You always wanted to do something important. Something to show you mattered, which was probably selfish. People were supposed to help others simply because they were selfless. Okay, I'll do it, but I'm going to have a list of requirements with me working there, you said, finally getting rewarded with a smile from Frisk. Reader, you're back!
Get over here, kid. Hey, guys, you said, getting into a hug with your Sans and Papyrus. Frisk made all the arrangements for movers and a van to take your stuff to the guest house. All you needed to do was show up. You could feel your anxiety spike when the door to the mansion opened, only to find yourself grinning at who it was. Didn't want your welcome back being done by the losers back there, your Sans said, nodding to Papyrus, Red, and Black, who were in the living room. The three skeletons just stood there awkwardly. Maybe it was your imagination, but you'd swear Red and Black appeared a little envious. As if, hey, these guys have their human, but what about us? Thanks, Sans. You have no idea how glad I am to see you two, you said, getting rewarded with a chin rubbing the top of your head by your Papyrus.
Human, you're mistaken. That's not Sans, that's Axe.
Classic Paps said with a raised finger. Nope. From over here, this is Sans and this is Papyrus. Your brother can get his own nickname. By the way, I already decided I'm just going to call you Classic Paps, you said, feeling nice and safe in your group hug.
Well, I don't know if I want...
It's a requirement on the list which the ambassador sent to you, you said, feeling the two skeletons in your arms tense. You forgot they didn't even like hearing Frisk mentioned. You gave them a final pat before pulling out of the hug.
Oh, I see. Yes, it is here,
Classic Paps said, pulling a piece of paper out. Maybe you went overboard with a list, but you weren't giving anything to chance. If you couldn't love staying here, you were going to make sure you didn't despise it. The list basically noted all your requirements for helping with the machine. The number of hours you would work, the things they couldn't ask, like favors Black did in the past, and how you would decide for yourself who you wanted to call Papyrus. Right, so I'd like to start with seeing the video of what exactly happened, you said, stifling the urge to ask how Blue was doing. The three skeletons exchanged glances while you felt your two friends move closer to your back.
All right, kid. It ain't pretty, though,
Red said, going over to the flat-screen television. Sans had a camera to track what went on in the basement with the machine. Whether it was because he didn't trust you or because he was using it for in case the machine did something unexpected, you never knew for sure. They must have expected you to ask about this because the footage started right before Tiffany entered the basement. You frowned unconsciously, thinking of the code needed to enter the basement. Sans was paranoid beyond belief about it. Only him, Stretch, Red, and yourself were supposed to know it, and it was changed every 2 weeks. She was stepping carefully inside, obviously trying to keep her footsteps quiet as she looked around. Then, when she was confident she was alone, she hurried to the machine. It was, to put it simply, art. Calling it the machine never felt right. The pipes were curved and twisted in a pattern which reminded you of water streaming down a canal. The circuitry hidden behind multicolored glass to light up the basement with a rainbow of colors. Finally, finishing it off with a tiny, swirling vortex of energy constantly floating inside the machine, and what you got was an impressive sight to behold. Maybe it was just you who saw it that way, though, because Tiffany didn't even take a moment to admire it before grabbing a fire extinguisher and smashing it into the glass. Circuitry was cracked and snapped, sparks flying off the machine. Stretch made an appearance then, looking out of breath. He raised one long arm to say something, but never got to speak. A bolt of lightning jumped from the circuitry, barely missing Tiffany by a foot and hitting Stretch dead on. You winced as the whole skeleton body crumpled. No, not the right word. Just dust. Everywhere a part of him instantly going from solid to dust, collapsing to the ground. Tiffany dropped the fire extinguisher and screamed, staring at what was left of Stretch in horror. That's when a bright flash of light exploded from the vortex, the whole television just turning into a white, glaring light you had to turn away from. When you turned your head back to look again, Tiffany was gone. You found yourself taking a step back as the machine exploded. The pipes breaking and flying into the air, the circuitry cracking further, and the swirling vortex seemed to almost shudder and disappear. It was as if the heart of the machine had just stopped. Red quickly turned off the television. You got the feeling his hurried actions were so you didn't see what happened with Stretch's remains discovered. Right. We should start with looking at the hard drive on the computer and what circuitry survived, you said, mind already racing on what to do. You were intentionally thinking of the tasks on hand. If you thought about the tasks, you didn't have to think about Stretch dying. Then, you didn't have to think about what state Blue was in, about whether you should do anything to make all this easier for him. I'm sure his family is helping him through this, and let's be honest, he may not even want to see you.